Hey, how's it going? Lately, I seem to find myself not being able to just record one of these episodes and then leave it. I always seem to be recording like multiple ones. But yeah, so I just did an episode of Am I the Asshole and I found it actually quite underwhelming, which usually isn't the case for that subreddit, but I don't know, maybe it's just like a slow day or whatever. So doing things a little bit differently this time, I thought we could take a look at dating over 30, and instead of just like scrolling through them and seeing what's what, I actually scrolled through first and clicked on a couple that just from the title I thought might be a little bit more interesting. I didn't actually read them though, so whether this works for getting better posts remains to be seen. Let's get into it. So, first post, another woman that is his landlady. So he rents a room out of her house. Before we met, he used to sleep with the landlady. She obviously developed feelings towards him, but he didn't develop feelings towards her. After he met me and stopped sleeping with her, she started all kinds of drama. For example, wouldn't let him have me over, threatened to kick him out, but when we actually went to pack stuff, she cried and told him to stay. What? This reminds me of a film that I feel like I've seen before. Does this ring any bells for anyone? I cannot for the life of me remember what it was, or maybe it wasn't a film, maybe it was just another post. This sounds similar to something. Anyway, till this today, 1 year after we are together, she still calls him several times a day. Why doesn't he just move out? He doesn't have any feelings towards her, I'm very sure of that, but he's a people pleaser and he cherishes his great rental deal. He tells me she's his friend. I asked if they had anything in common, if he would hang out with her if he moved out, and he said no. So you're not friends then, are you? But he insists that she's a friend. Today he has a flight and will be out of the country for 2 weeks. Last night I went to his place and spent the night. Landlady is not around, but told me to not make any noise at the door because landlady would hear from the doorbell camera and confront him. Oh my god. Isn't that kind of like a violation of privacy a little bit? I mean, I know it's like technically her place and she, would want to keep an eye on it, but like having a camera at your tenant's door so you know everyone who comes through their door and when they leave and when they come back home, do you know what I mean? I feel like that's not cool. But anyway, so basically he was hiding me from his landlady, which after a year, after any amount of time, is pretty fucking ridiculous, in my opinion. This morning, as we were getting ready to leave for the airport, landlady called him sobbing because she doesn't like her new job in another city, and he consoled her for a good 10 minutes. I got very upset and told him out loud, let's go, twice. He got upset with me, told me he didn't deserve this treatment, suggested that we part our ways. What? Like break up? I agreed. He drove me back to my place and I left by himself. And where am I getting I from? He drove me back to my place and left by himself. We had already thought about this situation several times and I told him before that this was a deal breaker for me. I can't have another woman being this intrusive in my relationship while him being dismissive of my feelings. On the other hand, I wonder if there's a more mature way of dealing with this. On his side, he thinks she's a friend and I can't tell him who to be friends with or not. I guess I just want to know if any of you guys have successfully dealt with this situation without breaking up. Honestly, that would drive me some kind of way as well. Like, that's ridiculous. Someone, like, basically controlling your life for a year now just because they have a thing for you, and they also then they're in a position of power because they're your landlady and they like can kick you out of your place and stuff. That's not cool. I really think regardless of how good the rental deal is, that the boyfriend in this situation, was it boyfriend or partner or whatever, that he should just like find another place to live, because for a year of that hassle, a year of that getting in the way of your actual current relationship, is that really worth it? Like, do you know what I mean? I mean, seemingly for him, he seems to think that it is, which to me is a problem. That's a red flag in itself. I totally agree. You can't tell someone who to be friends with. Like, don't try and stop him from having a relationship with her. But if basically all she seems to be trying to do is to get in the way of your relationship to the point where he has to actually hide you when you come over, that's ridiculous. That is way crossing a line. So it's really on him to do something about that, not you. And if he's unwilling to do something about it, then yeah, break up, because that's a real problem. That's an issue, in my opinion. Okay, next one we have, how can I drop hints to a coworker? I'm not sure what this is going to turn out to be, because I feel like maybe it's going to be creepy, or maybe it's going to be a hint to stop being creepy. So basically the title, I just got a new job and have a coworker who is similar age, so mid-30s, also a single parent and super cute. I was with my ex from age 18 to 32, so I don't have much dating experience besides a couple Tinder dates and one hookup since I got divorced. This coworker is so kind and friendly that it's hard to tell if he's just super nice to everyone or if there's something there on his end, feeling major sparks on my end. Maybe I'm just asking how to flirt basically, so I can figure out if he's feeling the same spark that I am. Now that I'm typing this, maybe it's a stupid question. I do know from another coworker that he asked if the new person, i.e. me, was single and cute, but that was before he met me, so all that shows me is that he is at least interested in dating in general. So the question is, how can you drop hints to the coworker that you're feeling major stuff on your side? I feel like it's different for everyone. Like some people do want like the flirty, hinty. Other people like it's similar to you. Maybe he is trying to drop you hints and you're not reading them correctly. Do you know what I mean? So, I mean, if you've been watching me for a while or this channel for a while, you'll know that I'm like a direct route kind of person. So I would just, be having the friendly chit chat, blah blah blah, and then say, hey, like, do you have any plans tonight or tomorrow night? I was wondering if you want to go like get dinner together or something like that, like actually explicitly ask. Like, you don't have to say, do you want to go on a date with me? Like, maybe that's a bit much, but saying, like, inviting them to something that is almost certainly a date, and then he can either be like, oh, sorry, I'm actually, like, whatever the situation might be. Like, whether he, did you say this, that he also a single parent? Yeah. So if he is single, if he says he's busy or something like that and then just leaves it at that, then he doesn't want to go out with you. But if he says like he's busy, but what about this day, then he probably is actually busy and wants to go out with you another time. You know what I mean? You could keep dropping hints or try to drop hints and be the old flirty. But yeah, it could be the similar situation. Maybe he's wondering the exact same thing. And one of you needs to at some point just make the move. You know what I mean? So I guess I'm not really answering your question as to how to drop hints, because I don't really believe in dropping hints. But I do kind of feel that, like, if you have a feeling that someone is into you, I don't know, it's kind of like an intuition thing. I feel like they probably are, if that's the way that you feel. But OP hasn't really indicated if they do think that. Like, they're saying maybe he's just super nice to everyone, and maybe he is. Because I've been in that situation too, where I'm just being nice and it's been read the wrong way. So yeah, just be out there and just invite him to go out. That's it. Okay. What next? Is this avoidant behaviour, or do I just not like them enough? So OP is a 30-year-old female and says, I've been going on dates with a lovely person after a long break from the apps. They seem emotionally available, but despite appreciating their qualities and finding them cute, I get bored with them. I sometimes find myself wishing I was doing something else or seeing someone else when I'm with them. We haven't had sex yet, and honestly, I don't feel much sexual attraction towards them. This is also true for some others I talk to on Hinge. It's just meh about all the ones that act like they're into me, initiate dates, communicate often, etc. I don't know what that means. And the ones who don't really make an effort seem incredibly sexy to me. Oh, that's not good. I don't chase the latter group, but historically they have been the ones that I find attractive. I'm trying to understand if I'm turned on only by emotionally unavailable people, or just no luck, I haven't met anyone who turns me on and who's emotionally available. I know the definite answer is therapy, and I'd love to do it, but it's not an option currently. So I'd love to hear the experiences of those who've had the same feelings and ended up figuring it all out. Thanks! Edit some words, another edit. The person I'm seeing is a woman. I date both men and women. This is a tricky one. I mean, I think it really comes down to like kind of historic behaviour. You know, what have your past relationships been like? If you always tend to find yourself that like the people who are probably actually going to be better and healthier for you, that you always seem somehow uninterested, then yeah, maybe it is that you for some reason have an issue where you're always drawn to emotionally unavailable people. Again, looking at your history and patterns of behaviour, maybe even the way you grew up, like are you seeking something bad because bad is what you're used to? Or is it just the coincidence that actually these people are nice and also uninteresting? Do you know what I mean? Like, in any case, I would say probably to break off with this person, because someone can be a lovely person, but if you're not attracted to them, you're not attracted to them. And I really feel like you're not attracted to them. And depending on the sort of setup you've got here, whether you're like mutually dating each other, whatever, I kind of feel like you're wasting the other person's time by continuing to see them. Because, I mean, even with a friend, I don't think I've ever been with a friend and been like, God, I wish I wasn't here. I'm so bored by you. I wish I was with someone else. Do you know what I mean? That's not a good sign for any kind of relationship. So yeah, it's hard for me to answer whether this is avoidant behaviour enough, but I definitely think that you don't like them enough. And I don't think that's something that you can or should try to force, really. Okay, so cut that off. And then just see how you get on with someone else, I guess. But yeah, there's a lot of people that, you know, will typically go for people who are bad for them and unhealthy. I've certainly, you know, had that phase in my life before as well. It's just one of these things. Okay, next one. Is it weird that I don't want to meet in person right away with what I'm assuming is online dating? Because I don't know all these acronyms that people use on Reddit. So OP says, I feel like most people don't like waiting to meet in person because they don't want pen pals or basically waste their time talking to someone they'll never meet. But I don't always feel comfortable when a guy comes at me with let's meet up tomorrow. Maybe it's just the increased precaution I have about meeting so quickly without at least a few days of getting to know someone and then having a really awkward or uncomfortable date, because they usually turn out to be creepy or really off-putting. So for example, I matched with a guy on an app and he suggested we do something after I got off work. I said yes, and when I got to the meeting place, it was like I'd been catfished. He was nothing like his profile and just gave me weird vibes all night, so I finally texted a friend to call me and fake an emergency so I could leave. I definitely didn't feel comfortable to just say I was done because, again, the vibe was way off. Similar things have happened to me multiple times since then, and the only time I feel comfortable going out with someone is if we talk first rather than just set up a date. Is this just me, or is this common with online dating? Before I didn't like being set up on blind dates or going out with someone spur of the moment because I didn't know them yet. Maybe it's just the stranger in the dark in me. I don't know. So OP has not indicated their sex, gender or pronouns. If OP is a woman, then I definitely get this. Not that I wouldn't get it if they were not a woman, but just, you know, it's easier for me to relate to. So it really, really bothers me when the first thing someone says is, let's meet up. Like, hello? How are you? Do you know what I mean? When like literally, I mean, that would literally be like going in a bar, walking up to someone and saying, let's go on a date. You wouldn't do that. You would talk to them first. You would get to know them a little bit. Do you know what I mean? And it doesn't have to be for days and days. Like the way I used to do it when I was on dating apps, it was, like Opie says, more about the vibe, more about how easy the flow of conversation is between you two, less than it is, like more, it's more about that than it is about the amount of time that you've been speaking to them, you know what I mean? Like, I've had it vary from like a couple of days of talking to like a couple of hours, just again, depending on how the conversation goes. So I definitely don't think it's just you, and especially if, you know, you're a woman or non-binary, it is a fucking safety thing. It really is. So even though like I'm not a fan of like making things up, I completely understand why this person got their friend to call and fake an emergency, because sometimes people are not safe to be around, and if you tell them no, it makes it worse, you know. So that's definitely something you have to consider. And at the end of the day, even if it was a lot more normal and common for people to meet right away without even having a conversation. If you're not comfortable with it, don't do it. And someone who is going to be able to have a good vibe with you and respect you in the way that you feel, they're going to be okay waiting a little bit longer. Do you know what I mean? If someone thinks that a couple of days is too long to wait to meet you, then they're not the right ones for you anyway. So it doesn't really, like, I don't think it's a weird thing, to be honest. And I think that even if it was weird, it's what you're comfortable with. So yeah, just go with that. I forget what the actual question is. Is it weird? No, it's not weird. It's not weird. You're all good. Okay, next. Online dating and pre-video calls. So I'm not big on online dating and rarely will meet anyone on there. I'm in my late 30s now, don't have kids and was never married, and was in a relationship since I was 24, and being thrown in the dating world has been really hard for me lately. How long was the relationship that you were 24? Like how long have you been single for? Anyway, I met a guy and we spoke for a few months. A few months, okay, now that to me is a long time to be speaking without meeting, personally. He spoke for a few months. He happens to live in another state. Okay, that makes more sense. He kept saying he was coming to my area for work, but it's been 3 months. He said they keep pushing back his work trip, which I do believe. Anyway, we don't talk all the time, but every week or so, a call or some texts. The last time we spoke, his whole demeanour changed, and he said unless we video call, he has no intention of meeting me. He asked for a video call once or twice before, and I just said another time because it was midnight and was tired, not thinking it was putting him off. Anyway, he was kind of rude and aggressive by saying it the way he did, and mentioned being catfished and having to walk out on dates. Me not having dated online, I'm not familiar with those experiences. He hung up, said the ball's in my court if I want to talk on video call later, or just never speak again. The passive-aggressive behaviour put me off more than anything. I agree. Do I schedule a video call and see if it works out and just ignore that maybe he's having a bad day? Side note, I really don't have a problem with a video call. Can't say I love it, but I'm not trying to hide either. Yeah, totally. I mean, it seems as if he maybe is in a position where he's kind of suspicious, where he's like, look, we've been talking for several months and we still haven't met yet. What's going on? Are you a real person? But the reason why you haven't met yet is because of his work trip not working out. So it's not as if OP is the one being like, oh yeah, we will, oh sorry, I have to cancel, or whatever, making the excuses. It's down to the guy, like, not coming to the city for whatever reason. And sure, well, they could, agree to meet up in a different time unrelated to his work trip, but he could do that too. It's both of them. It's a two-way street. I totally agree that the passive-aggressive behaviour and even the outward aggression is not cool. Like, even if you are worried about being catfished, you can say that in a gentle, decent way. You can be like, look, do you mind if we do a video call? Because we've been speaking for a few months now and I've had bad experiences in the past of being catfished. It would just really put my mind at ease, like, to know you're a real person, lol. You know what I mean? You don't have to be like, look, either you fucking video call me right now or we never speak again. That's a bit fucking much. I understand OP saying, like, do I maybe ignore that perhaps he was having a bad day? Yeah, maybe he was having a bad day, but what happens the next time he has a bad day and the time after that? How is he going to react? How is he going to be the next time he has a bad day? Do you know what I mean? So just be cautious there. I mean, it's not like you're saying that one person has a bad day and then that's it. They're out for good. But you haven't even met this person yet. So how invested are you really in that relationship anyway? Like, how keen are you actually to have the video call and to meet? I would do it based on that. Like, if you're really not that into it anyway, just don't give yourself the hassle. But if actually you're still super keen, yeah, then maybe do the video call and just really keep an eye on it just to make sure that this isn't going to be a thing. You know what I mean? Yeah. Next one. How have you gotten over the denial and fix it phase, so-called? The TLDR is at the end. Thank you for saying that. Let's look at that first and then see if we want to do this one. Oh my god, because it is long. So a road trip with my sister and her husband had me second guessing everything about what went down in my most recent long-term relationship, which ultimately puts my heart and mind back into denial phase or trying to fix the past. But if it's already happened, then it's already happened. I don't, do we want to read this? Yeah, I'm thinking let's not read this one. Just because it's so vague. Okay, so 30-year-old female had an odd date with a 28-year-old male. Is there any way to come back from this? OP says, I'd been texting daily to a guy from an app for 3 weeks, so the OP is a 30-year-old female. He suggested meeting Labour Day as we live an hour apart, but that day he would be travelling with friends who live where I do, he's from my city, and I can just return with them. He suggested a walk at 6 p.m. when his friends would drop him off by my place. It was a severe heat warning, 105 degrees Fahrenheit, which I don't know what that is, but it's hot. I asked a few minutes before meeting if he'd need water, but he said he was all set. When we met, I kind of went in to hug him, but he'd said, I'd hug you hello, but I'm already soaking from sweating. Okay, but I thought he was just dropped off in the car, but it is hot, so maybe he's like, just gross and sticky and he doesn't want to leave like horrible ickiness on her. This really weirded me out almost, as I felt rejected. No, it's fine, don't worry about it. It's fine. He suggested due to heat, we can find an air-conditioned building on campus, and I said okay, but then I forgot to find a building, and I also followed his lead, so I didn't suggest any of the lawn chairs or a bench to sit down on, because we were just walking and talking by the time she realised that she hadn't picked a place, like she was just following him basically. I was in pain walking due to an injury, which is my own fault that I didn't mention it, and uncomfortable due to the heat, but we never flirted or really looked face to face since we never sat down. We also never took the environment, like comment on buildings. We never took in the environment, like comment on buildings, etc. We had lots to talk about though, a lot of similarities, both in academia. We went to college together, same unique family cultural experience, so grandparents in the same refugee camp, loved the same rare music, although we didn't talk about music at all in the walk. I do feel we both were sharing things, almost resume-like, but I wasn't asking fun questions and may have come across as obnoxious. He said he wears N95 inside restaurants as he would be flying home the next day to see his immunocompromised mum before his best friend's engagement party, and then has to go to a different state to give a lecture. He said he's very COVID careful because of his mum, and maybe this is why we did a walk, probably, to be honest. I explained I had been as well due to my mum and only recently stopped, but now the hospital I work at is ramping precautions back up. At the end, he said he had stored his belongings from his trip at a hotel 5 blocks away. Not sure why he didn't just ask me to store his stuff, because you're a stranger, he's never met you before. And that would be a bit weird to show up with a bunch of stuff and be like, hey, can you put this in your house for me? So I get that, and he has a hotel, so yeah, why not leave it in his own place? And he said because of Labour Day, the train to his city wasn't running, and the free buses to the train I would have offered were also off, so he had bought an Amtrak ticket the other day. He said once he had to get his stuff from the random hotel near my apartment, he had to go take a lift to catch his scheduled $15 Amtrak. When he said goodbye, he did not hug me. He just said it was such a funny coincidence about grandparents and take care. Comparing this to my last first date, that previous guy took me out for tea, gave me multiple super strong hugs at the end, then looked at me in the eyes, put his hands through my hair and said, hey, I don't like that. Let me stop you right there. That's too much. The first date with the guy, he gives you multiple strong hugs at the end, makes fucking direct contact and touches, puts his hand through your hair. Ugh. Says, I love your hair. Then said he wanted to meet again when he comes from his international trip. We ended up dating for a few months. I feel disappointed. Neither of us wrote since. It just feels odd to me we could have had so many things to talk about, but maybe our dynamic was off or ruined because of the weather. I'm not sure what to think. I think you're reading too much into it, and probably the fact that you feel weird about it is making the vibe a bit weird. Like I say, this other date that you were on, that's getting into the personal space, a hug goodbye, sure. Multiple strong hugs when you've just met, that's a bit too fucking keen. Putting the hand through the hair, get away from me. Don't you don't know me that way. Do you know what I mean? That's me personally, okay? But OP dated him for a few months, so she seems to like that. But honestly, that to me is giving like creep vibes. So yeah, I think it's totally fine that so the guy now in this story didn't give OP a hug straight away, and he even said like, I'm just super sweaty. So, you know, I get that. Like, it's fucking hot outside, you're sweating, you feel disgusting and icky, you're just meeting someone for the first time, you don't want to pass your gross ickiness onto them, and then they, like, that would give me a worse vibe if someone was like hugging me all gross and icky, and then I would be like, oh, now I feel disgusting and I want to go home and have a shower. Do you know what I mean? So I think that's totally fine, don't worry about that. And then if he didn't hug you when you met because it's hot, why would he hug you afterwards when it's still hot and you still feel gross? Do you know what I mean? So I wouldn't read into that very much. Saying it's such a funny coincidence about our grandparents, yeah, seems like he's, you know, still into the conversation and stuff like that. But neither of you wrote since. How long ago was that? Let's see if the OP indicates. So she said that she'd been texting daily with him for 3 weeks. I don't know when Labour Day is because I think that's an American thing, but whatever, they haven't talked since. It could be that, yeah, maybe the hot weather did ruin it, or as I say, it could be that the vibe was just off and that you're just not interested. Like, I did once go on a date with a guy where it was like, it was fine, it was just very meh, and towards the end, like, I kind of like, I tried to make it work, but I just like wasn't feeling it, and I don't think he was feeling it either. So then afterwards, like, neither of us said anything because we were quite happy just to not do it again. Do you know what I mean? So, I mean, it's on you as well. You know, communication is a two-way street. If you haven't written to him, but you're disappointed, like, why not? Just write to him. Why not say, hey, it was nice meeting you. It was a shame the weather was so hot. Maybe we can get together again soon when it's not so bad, or something like that. You know, like, you can't just hang around waiting for someone else to say something. And honestly, this thing about why did you not leave his stuff at my house, why would you do that? Like, I would not give my stuff to a stranger that I'm meeting for the first time and be like, oh, can you just keep that for me? No, I've got a hotel room, I'll keep it in my hotel room. And then, you know, he's got the train booked or whatever, he wants to get on his train on time. I think that's totally fine. Don't worry about it. Like, and if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But if you want it to work out, then at least say something. You know? Alright. That was all the ones that I had picked out. Again, just from the title. I feel like maybe that was a little bit better. Like, less wasting time just sort of scrolling while I'm on the video. But yeah, I try and find like different ones, like, because I feel like so many of them have common themes with like baby and pregnancy and sex stuff. I try and find more interesting ones. So let me know if you have any different ones or different subreddits that you want me to take a look at. I do hope that you enjoyed the video regardless. Hopefully in the next ones it'll be, yeah, a little bit more interesting. I don't know, I feel like before I recorded the last video today, I feel like it was a couple of weeks since I'd done anything, and I thought that that would kind of, you know, give things a chance to, you know, like with new posts and stuff like that, so I'm not just getting old ones or whatever. But I don't know, maybe I need to do something different with the filters. You know, maybe I need to look at like what's hottest or most popular or something. If you have tips for that, because I only use Reddit for these videos, let me know in the comments. Check out some of my other videos if you feel like it. And I will see you next time. Bye bye, 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 bye.